I would like to introduce someone to you that we're taking around with us on our opening leg of the 1987 Doctor Who Festival and Exhibit Tour. We started out in 1985 with Colin Baker. We started out our tour in 1986 with Colin Baker, and I am very proud to say that the Doctor Who Festival and Exhibit Tour is the most successful tour of its type in the United States or in Doctor Who fandom in the world, and I'm real proud of that, and you make that a big part of our success. The other thing that I'd like to say is that there's some questions that maybe you'd like to feed Colin that sometime not too far back, when they decided that they were going to change some of Doctor Who, everyone thought they were going to get a new producer. In fact, John Nathan Turner, I think when he was here, mentioned that he thought there would be a new producer. He really didn't want to do it this year. What I think that they did in error, I might add, is that they didn't get a new producer, and they did get a new doctor. So Mr. Baker isn't real happy about all this, naturally. No doctor ever is, I don't think, but I'd like for you to give your warmest welcome, like I know you can, to Mr. Colin Baker, our sixth Doctor.
You've stopped. That was very nice of you. I was told the people of Bellingham were good people. They were right. You're in Bellingham now. I gather this place was named after the Inquisitor, is that right? Linda Bellingham. I was told to bring her with me, but she's busy working in England. For those of you who don't know who she is, an actress called Linda Bellingham played the role of the Inquisitor in the last series, all 14 episodes. And we did it in honor of you here. Because you're all bordering on the magnificent, aren't you? Do we have anyone here from Canada? Anyone here from America? Okay, all the Canadians on that side, all the Americans on that side, fight it out. It's very nice to be here. This is Sunday, so it must be Bellingham. I arrived late last night, and I haven't had a chance to see anything, but on the way here I've realized what a beautiful area you all live in. The air is wonderful out there. It's the first fresh air I've had for months. And the spring is here, and you're very lucky. And now I'm here, so maybe you're not so lucky. I think Ron told you a little bit about, before I carry, did you watch that bit of The Brothers? Did you recognize that thin young guy? I don't remember ever being so thin. I suppose between being 7 pounds when I was born and being what I am now, I must have gone through that phase, but boy, I don't remember it. It was a series I did for 3 years over in Britain, which finished in 1976. I think that was in about 1975 that was done. And that's a long time ago. For those of you who can't work it out, 22 years. Except he was 12, but it seems like 22. And I played a really unpleasant character. I was once voted the most hated man in Britain by the readers of a national newspaper. And you wouldn't know it from watching that episode. It was a fairly untypical one. But unfortunately, as the VCR machine didn't really exist in any great numbers then, that's the only copy I've been able to get hold of so far. Because I won't have all of them, you see, because I like watching myself. No, that's not true, just joking. apropos of Doctor Who, as you probably all know, I started playing the Doctor in 1983, and I finished playing the Doctor in 1986. The circumstances of that finishing are probably known to you. I won't get too lyrical about it just now, but basically what happened is that a man called Michael Grade, who became controller of the BBC a couple of years ago and who has never liked the programme very much and has admitted so, cancelled the programme first of all, then reduced it by half, and then ordered the producer to get a new Doctor, and which meant my departure. So a new Doctor has started and will be recording us from March. As a little tiny part of me wishes him luck. But I'm only human, and I'm a little bit close to it at the moment, and as those of you who have paid any attention to what I've said before about the show know that I have cared about it a great deal, have enjoyed playing the part a great deal, and had my eye on a considerable run in the future. Alas, that was not to be, until we have that scene in the shower where Melanie pulls back the shower curtain and sees me and says, "Doctor, I had a dream." But I very, very much enjoyed playing the part. I can't quite believe I'm still not playing the part, but when I come here to see you, I feel I'm involved in the show again. So one thing that some fans have been kind enough to express a worry that I would no longer wish to be associated with the show. That is not true. I will always hold a very special place in both of my hearts. For both the show itself and for all of you who have, I'm amazed to say, written to me in such vast numbers over the last 2 or 3 months that it'll take me an awful long time to reply. I picked up 2 sacks full of mail in the last month from my local post office, who refused to deliver it. In fact, it's ironic, I'm getting more mail, nice mail, now that I've stopped playing the part than when I was actually doing it. I guess that's only to be expected. Look, rather than ramble on for hours and hours and hours, what I like to do is answer your questions. So there's a microphone down here. If you would like to come up in your thousands and ask me whatever question you really want to ask, and there is nothing that I will refuse to answer. I might lie, but I won't refuse to answer. So we'll put the microphone here, and if you want to come up and... oh, they're rushing. Yes, who's going to be first? There's a lot of you here, aren't there? Are you all comfortable? Is it nice, comfortable seats? No? I'm sorry. Change seats with this gentleman. The fact that he's 370 pounds is irrelevant. Oh. That means I can't see the person who's talking to me. You have a question, sir.
Were you surprised when you got part of the Doctor?
Was I surprised when I got the part of the Doctor? I was surprised when I was asked to play it, I suppose. What happened basically was that John Nathan Turner, who had met me briefly when I played a very small part in a programme called Arc of Infinity with Peter Davison as the Doctor, I played Maxil, the head of the guard on Gallifrey, and I've been one of those actors always that have been the bane of directors, because I don't believe there is such a thing as a small part, you see. And when I got the part of Maxil and read those 5 lines, I realised they were the most important 5 lines in the whole show. And couldn't understand why it wasn't called, in fact, the Maxil Show. And when John Nathan Turner came to see the final dress run of that particular episode, he stood there. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that film, The Producers, right? There's a scene in The Producer where the audience is sitting there like... Well, that's what John Nathan Turner looked like when he saw my performance. And I was asked to tone it down a little. But as a result of that, when Peter told him he was leaving, for some reason he thought of me to play the Doctor, which was very flattering. And yes, I was surprised, but the surprise turned rapidly into glee and joyful acceptance. I was always delighted to have the chance of doing it. Thank you for your question.
Hi, Colin. Pleasure to meet you.
How are you, sir?
Pretty good.
Good. You may shake my hand.
Not to take anything away from you, but this is probably the best chance I'll have. How's Janet?
Janet, my friend Janet, the mouth that walks. I suddenly realised you can't really see me if I stand down there, can you? I'm in the dark. Is that better? Or is this better in the dark? Janet is very well. I saw Janet just after Christmas. Janet and I have always, even though we never actually worked together, except once, we did a program called Jim Will Fix It, which is you've seen that. For those of you who haven't seen it, Jim Will Fix It is a TV program in Britain where people write in to say, I would like to, nuke the universe, and they fix up, an aeroplane and a couple of bombs and send them off to do it. And in fact, an awful lot of children write in saying they want to meet the doctor. And so they set up this little story where the boy concerned could play a scene in the TARDIS with the doctor. Nicola Bryant wasn't available because she was away on holiday, so they asked Janet to come in and play Tegan with the Sixth Doctor. And we got on extremely well, because I think the Sixth Doctor and Tegan have quite a good potential relationship there. Because she's a sassy lady. You're obviously a fan, sir. Right.
I also wanted to ask you, do you see any chances of CBS Fox getting some videos on the market afternoons?
Well, as far as videos are concerned, it depends on the videos that are released in Britain, I suppose, and there's only 2 or 3 of, I think, only Tom Baker stories that are available for sale on video. And I learned to utter amazement that, is that light bright? Yes. But they're not going to release any this year at all. There are no Doctor Who videos being released. That's a decision made by BBC Enterprises, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. They're releasing a lot of Shakespeare stuff this year, so they're not bothering with anything else much.
Okay, my last one I said my out of the way here. Do you think there's a chance of Janet coming to the West Coast? I'm pitching her now.
Janet, I shall send her out here when I get back.
Okay. Rick Myers and Dan, and we admire her tremendously, and I wish you would write to me. I don't want just an autograph picture. I want to write you up.
What, Janet?
Yes, I'm going to write back to you.
Right. Well, I shall tell her that she's got to write to you, right? Okay. I hope Janet keeps being asked about me when she comes here. Hi there.
Hi. What happened in the episodes after Revelation of the Daleks, and how exactly did you get regenerated?
What happened after Revelation of the Daleks? Well, there's a whole season after Revelation of the Daleks called Trial of a Time Lord. The first episode of which is the Doctor being taken out of space and time and put on trial for... Now let's see if you can guess what he's put on trial for. I will give you 3 possibilities, right? The first possibility is parking on a double yellow line. The second possibility is failing to stop at a pedestrian crossing. And the third possibility is meddling. Which do you think it is? The Doctor has been tried for that before, I understand, but we have yet another one. It lasts 14 full episodes. As to how I am regenerated into the 7th Doctor, I don't know and I don't care. And I'm sorry if that offends those of you who quite rightly care more about the programme than about my particular problems. But just to put the record straight, I was offered the first story of the new season because they wanted to do a regeneration. I was offered it and asked to commit myself 6 months before doing it, and the idea of saying yes to 4 weeks' work 6 months in advance and then being kind of kicked out, didn't appeal to me, and I'm afraid I told them in no uncertain terms that I did not regard that as an acceptable offer. Sorry if that upsets anybody. Yes, my dear.
A friend of mine tells me that you've taken to wearing dresses lately.
So it was your friend looking through the window of the Holiday Inn, was it? Everyone has to have a hobby. I believe it's very important to have a hobby. Have you looked at some of yourselves? I'm about to do a play called Corpse, which is a thriller in which I play twin brothers, one of whom, I mean, I can tell you this because it's very unlike any of you will be over in England to see the play, which opens in about 4 or 5 weeks' time. One of whom, it takes place in 1935 and goes around dressed as Queen Mary to do a bit of shoplifting, basically. So the play opens with me dressed as a woman. Yes. Some of you might find this a little incredible, but I won't be talking like that, of course. I don't know what I haven't started rehearsal yet, so I don't know what it'll be like, but yes, I do. It'll be my first time ever, though, and I hope my last. We have a young man here. Hello, young man.
I know how to regenerate.
How do I regenerate? You tell me.
I don't know how.
Oh, you said, how do I regenerate? Well, basically what you do is you stand there and you go, and if you do it long enough, you regenerate. Oh, another way is to get Michael Grade as controller of the BBC.
Hey, Colin Baker, how's it going? Colin Baker, like, well, we kind of love this. We got to start. But it's all right, the BBC. It's going to keep calling, man.
Yeah, very nice. It's a little bit late now. The new Doctor has been announced.
Who is it?
An actor called Sylvester McCoy.
The real McCoy.
Now, you're not asking me to be unkind about a man I've never met, are you? No, I mean, I'd have felt pretty bad if Peter had said unpleasant things about me before I started. So much as I feel personal irritation and disappointment and all those other emotions, it's not this guy's fault, so I don't know. All I know about him, he's about 5'6"-ish. He has a history in alternative comedy and things like that, and children's entertainer. He played the Pied Piper at the National Theatre. He became famous in Britain some years ago for putting ferrets down his trousers. and 6-inch nails up his nose. I rest my case.
The question I wanted to ask.
Yes.
Okay, this is Doctor Who magazine I read that's published by Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
And I saw on the cover that you were wearing a digital watch, and I was wondering if the Doctor wears a digital watch that opens doors.
What, that one?
Yeah.
Well, that must have been a mistake. I haven't noticed that, and you're the first person who's drawn my attention to it. Sometimes those photographs they use on the cover are taken when you're hanging around waiting to do a scene, rather than when you're actually doing it. And normally the dresser, who is responsible for me and my clothes, would say, Colin, take your watch off. And in between scenes, I put it back on again, so I know what time it is, basically. For a Time Lord, that's pretty funny, isn't it? So, no, the Doctor does not wear a digital watch, and that must have been a mistake. Do you have it with you, that particular one?
No.
No. Oh, I'd like to see that one. Hello, sir.
I was wondering if TARDIS could be able to let Mr. Gray drop him off on the illusion chain and have you regenerate as the Doctor once again.
These are all very good ideas.
And the question that I have is basically, has the BBC always been as financially irresponsible as they have displayed with the Doctor series, or?
I know it's very, very difficult for people who are not familiar with the workings of the BBC to understand how any organisation can be so apparently uninterested in making a profit. The BBC is an independent, non-government controlled, and yet flimsily associated with the establishment. It's a very complicated setup. The government does interfere, but can't be seen to do so. There's a board of governors which runs it, who are appointed by the government, but then don't have to answer to them. Below that runs the Director General, the Managing Director of Television, and then the Controller of Programmes, which is Michael Grade. When a programme is sold abroad, because of the charter of the BBC, which does not allow it to make a profit, the proceeds of those sales go to another organisation called BBC Enterprises, which is set up independent of the BBC. They then give the money to the BBC, but it goes into the general BBC coffers, right? It does not go back to the programme-making department. So the Controller of Programmes says, all right, we'll have 26 episodes of Doctor Who, which costs him X £1,000. The fact that the programme makes twice that much every year in sales makes no whit of difference to him, because it doesn't go back into his department. He gets his budget every year, irrespective of what the programmes he makes sell for. So the fact that the programme in every year earns more than it costs to make, and that's a fact, they will not accept that as a reason for making more programmes, because their budget remains the same. It's a stupidity and it's a nonsense, but that's the fact.
I think they need to come over here and learn what enterprise really means.
Oh, I know. The Starship Enterprise, for a start. Thank you. I mean, just to carry on. Oh, is this the picture of me with the watch on? Thank you. Let's have a look. How very naughty of me. I don't know where that was taken. Thank you.
Wait, Colin, I got a question for you as a part of Doctor Who. Oh, I think we've all seen that the TARDIS control room has a huge set of double doors that opens.
Yes.
And the outside of it has a small single door.
Yes.
And we know that the inside is much larger than the outside.
Yes.
And we've seen that there's two different control rooms, the main one and the auxiliary room.
Yes.
Both sets, or both control rooms, have double doors that open onto the same outside door.
Yes.
And we also saw one doctor, I think it was Peter Davidson, climb into the TARDIS and then fall inside, flip the switch, the control room righted itself inside the TARDIS, but the door still led outside.
Yes.
What is it that happens between the double doors and the outside door?
Well, do you understand the concept of a zero-space inverted continuum, first of all? Because if you can't understand that, we have a difficulty in communicating. Because that's quite a simple idea compared with the actuality of what causes the relationship between the larger interior and the apparently smaller exterior. I'm viewing it subjectively now. You probably see it the other way around. Next question.
I was wondering if you could have another American on the show, maybe like Pee Wee Herman.
Is he an American football player or something? What about Refrigerator Perry? Would have him. No, fine, right. Well, unfortunately, as my involvement in the show is now somewhat distanced, I think it's a brilliant idea, but there's very little I can do about it. I think it's a wonderful idea. Would you like that? Fine. Is it a good idea, do you think? I think you're outvoted. Is that all? Oh, right. And the next victim, please.
If it goes to the land, would you go with the Time Lord?
I'm sorry?
If it goes to the land over there in space,
Yes.
would you go in and with the Time Lord just take off?
You mean if a real TARDIS arrived there, would it, I'd spend a little time with you first, if you'd wait. I wouldn't go straight away, because that would be rude. But, oh yes, I'd love to do it. One of my unfulfilled ambitions, and I suspect it will remain unfulfilled, is to go up in a space shuttle. I'd love to. I'm going for all that sort of stuff. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to see that IMAX film that's available at Washington, the other Washington, the unimportant one on the other side, you know. At the Space Museum there, they've got this wonderful IMAX cinema where they show this film that they took up in space on the space shuttle and in the... what? The Dream is Alive. That's it. Isn't it wonderful? Have you seen it? How could anyone not want to go up there and just to be able to see the Earth below you just spinning? It must change you. I mean, it's changed everybody else who's been up there. I'd love to go and see it. Not that I want to be changed. I think I'm pretty good as I am. Yeah, I'd love to. I'd go. Wouldn't you? And there's room for all of us. And the same to you. Hello.
You said in an interview in Star
Did I say... I don't remember saying that.
You said that you referenced to... You said in reference to Perry on Blood Encounter, you said when you said you thought Advert was bad. Is it Dr. Killer or what?
Oh, about the end of Perry. Well, I was asked this question yesterday, and I decided it's probably, even though there are a lot of you who would dearly love to know what happens to Perry, it's probably for the sake of the handful of you who don't want to know, not to actually tell you. But the end is very dramatic. It is very dramatic. There must be some of you who've seen the new season, I'm sure. Have you seen all of it? Was it all right? Thank you. Thank you.
And what was your favorite episode that you did?
What's my favourite episode that I did? Yes, it is really. And I've spent a great many hours trying to go through them all in my mind to see if there was one which really is my favourite. And I think probably with the stories I've had, there hasn't been an outstanding one, because even the Robert Holmes ones, I think he'd probably admit, he's not with us anymore, bless him, but weren't up to the standard perhaps of some of his previous stories. I mean, the great stories of the past, like Talons of Weng Chiang and Pyramids of Mars and the Autons and all those stories, which were vintage Robert Holmes. But even so, I suppose just because of working with Patrick Troughton, the Two Doctors would stand out as my favourite. Pleasure.
Hello.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
I grew up with Dr. Who.
Did you? You're English. What are you doing in a place like this?
Admiring you.
Oh, how kind. Where'd you come from?
I'm from Liverpool.
Are you from Liverpool? I'm from Rochdale.
Yes,
Yeah, aye, we are. I've worked in Liverpool at the Playhouse. Yes. Have you in Sheffield? Over the Snake Pass? Yes. Yes. Excuse us while we talk amongst ourselves, won't you? How long have you lived here?
4.5 years,
Canada.
Yeah.
Right.
What I was to ask you,
Right whack. You tell me.
all right, well, what was the first Doctor Who you ever saw? Did you grow up with it?
Yeah, the first Doctor Who I ever saw was the very first episode on the 23rd of November 1963.
Then they repeated it again.
That's right, and they repeated it the following week because the assassination of Kennedy happened at the same time, and it threw all the schedules of television into disarray, and they thought they'd better show that episode again in case it had not been seen. I remember it very clearly. I can remember exactly where I was. I was a law student. I was in a flat in Bayswater in London, and we'd heard about this new programme, and we came in to sit down and watch it. And we watched the rerun the following week as well, and I was hooked on it. I thought it was wonderful. And if you had told me then...
What do I know now?
that I'd be standing here talking to you as the doctor, I'd have been flabbergasted.
Do you find it like I find it, right? I consider myself relatively intelligent, but when it comes to the doctor, it's impossible to be objective. It's all totally subjective. It doesn't matter what...
Well, I find it that way, yes, but...
The whole series, I mean, I will sit and let them tell me anything.
Oh, yes. Well, that's the whole point of Doctor Who, isn't it? I mean, I think it's quite fun to try, as I read all the various fan magazines I get sent, and I think it's quite fun to read some of the letters where people are trying to pick their way through the intricate absurdities and complexities of the possibilities of how certain things come to be. I mean, for instance, the new season, where I produce Melanie as a witness in my defence when I haven't even met her yet. The amount of people that find that worthy of spending many hours on to try and bring sense to is wonderful, and I think it's great fun, but basically you just have to surrender yourself and trust. But I'm speaking as a viewer. As an actor involved in the show, I do sometimes get a little bit cross with script editors who should be nameless, and there's only one I've worked with, so who, when you point out an inconsistency and say, look, surely that's a bit wrong, shouldn't we mention so-and-so, they say, oh, that doesn't matter. And I think it does matter. For instance, at the beginning of the trial, there's a very short reference to the fact that I'm president of Gallifrey. I don't know if any of you have seen it. I say, you can't put me on trial, I'm the president. And they say, well, you're deposed. Now, those two lines were put in because I got extremely angry. I said, you cannot end one season with the actor, Peter Davison then, being told he was president of Gallifrey, go back to, well, it's not to Gallifrey, but to a Gallifrey controlled situation, and make no reference to it. I said, it's simply not fair to the viewers. Oh, all right then, will these two lines do? I mean, that's the kind of reaction you get. And I think a greater degree of care is owed to the viewers, not just the fans who are kind of first division viewers, if you like, but the viewers at large. People who may not think about Doctor Who from one year to another, but watch the programme, would still have noticed that. I mean, it's fairly glaring, and I think it's a shame that it's not always considered worthy of attention. And it's usually the actors, because I know Tom was very keen on all that as well, it's usually the actors who say, oh, come on, let's play the game fair.
I think for a long time in the BBC it was just kind of a black kid show on the Saturday afternoon, and,
Yes.
This astounds me. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. I'm told you, they're wonderful. I've never seen anything like this. It's totally fine. So who is it? Are you going to keep on doing Doctor Who things? Are you going to quit it?
Oh, I want to keep on coming to these. Yeah, it's fun. I like things that are fun. Thanks. Hello. Shake my hand. Consider it shook, sir. There you are.
Okay. Without being too biased, all the other doctors play the character. Which is your favorite episode?
Oh, my favourite episode of Other Doctors. I just mentioned it. Talons of Wen Chiang, I think. Good story, that. Or either of the Auton stories. What was that? Spearhead from Space and Terror of the Autons, was it? Or I liked the Carnival of Monsters. They're all Robert Holmes, aren't they? They're all Robert Holmes. How's that? That'll do, won't it?
As a kid myself, when will there be a Canadian playing as a companion doctor?
A Canadian companion. Well, this is in the future of the programme, you see. And the future of the programme is something that I am pretending doesn't exist at the moment. But if there's been an Australian, and there's been several English, and there's been an American, there should certainly be a Canadian, and a New Zealand, and a Tongan, and a Hawaiian. The only thing is they've got to speak English, otherwise we'd have that awful situation of the doctor taking an interpreter with him. With a German companion, das ist gut, Doctor. That is good, Doctor. No, we can't have that.
And one more question now. Who's your favorite actor who hasn't portrayed a doctor besides yourself?
Well, now. Besides myself. That's a tricky one. The answer that I will give you is that I quite genuinely have enjoyed watching all of them, and I think every single actor who's played the Doctor, I mean, even if I'd never played it myself, I'd have found this question difficult to answer, because everyone has brought something to the part. I think it really is a part that any actor who can act has a version of the Doctor. You may not like it, but they have a version which is... because you have to draw on yourself to a large extent to play the Doctor. If you tied me to the floor and started dropping large pieces of rock on me and said, unless you name your favourite Doctor, we will carry on for 6 years, I would probably say, only because he's the one I know the best, I've known for many years, I shared a flat with his son, I was best man at his son's wedding, and I've known Patrick Troughton for an awful long time. So, because I know and love the man, I would say him. But only if you force me to. And you haven't, so I won't.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Hi. How are you?
I'm fine.
What's your name?
Robert.
Hi, Robert.
What I was wondering is, now 90% of the time, when the TARDIS materializes, it seems to be in England. Do you think we could bring the TARDIS out here sometime?
Yes, it does appear that way, doesn't it? They tried. In my first season, the story was written which was to be filmed, I think, around New Orleans. Was it? Down that away somewhere, anyway. The co-production money had been arranged, everything had been worked out. There were enormous difficulties with unions, because if one country films in another country, very often the union of that country insists that you use labour of that country. At the same time, the country you're leaving insists that you take theirs. So very often you have to have two complete units, one of which is doing nothing at all but being paid. So it gets extremely expensive. The entertainment unions sometimes are very restrictive in their practices. It was all going ahead very well. It was for the two Doctors, that was going to be done over here. And then suddenly the money was withdrawn, the co-production money, because it's obviously much more expensive. So we did a quick rewrite and made it Spain, which was nearer and cheaper to do. It is expense is the problem. The spirit of willingness is certainly there, because it would be great fun for everyone involved. And the other danger is, of course, that the license payer, because BBC Television is funded by an annual license levied on all people who own television sets of £58 each. So for about $90 to $100, we get all our television free, which some people here might think is pretty good, but over there they complain about it. And if they saw a lot of actors and directors and a whole production team going off for a couple of months to America to enjoy some filming, they might say, this is a waste of our money. You can do exactly the same stuff over here. So there's all sorts of kind of political things going on in the background. But the idea is splendid, and I'm sure everyone would love to do it. Okay. Patrick, how are you? How nice to see you here.
I got a couple of questions. One of them was, since they say the show over in England is having problems of getting viewers.
Sorry, what's the question? Is the show having problems with viewers?
That's like when stuff coming over here.
Right.
From their thing, that you're having a hard time getting viewers.
Well, you see, this is partly a base insinuation promulgated by who shall be nameless, that one of the reasons that he is viewing the show with such little favour is that its viewership is slumping, which is not absolutely true. I don't have the exact figures at my fingertips, but my past season, the Trial of a Time Lord, was getting around about 5 million viewers. It was opposite the A-Team. Now, the A-Team is a very popular programme with young kids in Britain. It's violent. I think it's dishonest because it shows violence as something you can walk away from. People blow things up and nobody ever gets hurt. We were told to cut down on the violence in our programme. We were scheduled against a violent programme like the A-Team, which was getting 11, 12 million viewers. For the first time ever in the last season, we were shown in the hours of daylight at 5:40 in the autumn, September. Normally the show's been going out in January, February, March when it's dark at 5:40. And we had a very good weather in September, October, which meant at 5:40 in the afternoon, parents were keeping their kids outside playing. You know, stay outside, the weather's good. We don't want you in the house. We were immediately preceded by a program called Roland Rat. And Roland Rat was devastating in its unpopularity. it peaked at 2 million viewers. So, and the A-Team started during Roland Rat. So people hated the Rat. Those who were in the house, because it was still light, switched over halfway through Roland Rat and got the A-Team and watched that. I think we did very well to get 5 million. And even Tom, whose doctor I thought was splendid, in his last couple of years was only getting the same figures. Peter's figures rose quite sharply because they changed, I mean, apart from Peter being a very good doctor, because they changed the viewing to 7 o'clock at night, and it was on in the weekdays when everyone was at home, and it went up to about 10 or 11. And I think simply to blame me, which is what Michael Grade is doing for a drop in viewing figures, is dishonest, actually.
Because I look at it as like your era, and it's sort of like tailed off, and they really, other than the Daleks, the Cybermen, and the Sun Turns, looks like they never got in some of the other bad guys that the other guys faced. If you had to go back, other than those three, who would you effectively like to gun up against?
The Autons. I like to look at the Autons. And there was an Auton story written as well. That was another bit of overseas filming was due to be in Singapore during the cancelled season. That was all set up, the one that Michael Gray cancelled. There was a series of, I think, 6-episoder with the Autons and the Rani had been written to be filmed in Singapore. And for some reason that was not picked up again. I think it had been so complicated to set up the facilities over there when it was cancelled that they felt they couldn't get the Singapore government to go through all that again. So that one kind of disappeared. It was very sad, because I never saw any scripts, but I heard the storyline and it was very exciting.
You know, when you got on Time Lapse, what episode of the Third Doctor are you referring to when they brought him out? That one...
Oh, what episode? It isn't one that, it's not one that you've seen. I mean, what you don't understand, you see, is that what you see of the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth Doctor is only a tiny part of what those Doctors actually did. So that story... Well, they're all fictitious. I hate to disillusion you, but they're all fictitious. I'm sorry. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. Would I like to see a female companion in high heels?
Out of high heels. They like to always
Oh, I see what you mean. The actresses themselves would be very grateful very often. I mean, poor Nicola was desperate to get out of those shoes sometimes, but for some reason it was not allowed. I have no comment to make on that. Thank you. Yes, you may. I thought you were going to ask a 9th question then. My dear, hello. What, Doctor?
My question is, how come you don't wear any nifty vegetables on your suit like
Well, where I come from, vegetable is a kind of insult. You know, if you call somebody a vegetable, it's not very nice. No. A pussycat, something quite different.
You wear those over with your car.
I got a pussycat. All right, next time I'll have a turnip. That make you feel better? Or a king apple potato. It's a powerful restorative where I come from, you know. You like celery, do you? Is it? A pizza. Hello.
Where do you get your shoes?
When I get my shoes, do you know, these shoes, I don't know if you can see them, these shoes, they are the most comfortable shoes I have ever had in my life, and I only ever wear them on occasions like this, because if you find, I don't know if you're the same as me, if you find something you really like, you don't want to wear it out. And these shoes are so nice, I wear them only when I come to conventions, or when I never wear them outside if I can avoid it. I got them in Oslo, in Norway. I saw them in a shop window, and I thought, I like the look of those shoes, and I put them on, and I felt like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Click your heels 3 times and say, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no... I won't do it 3 times, otherwise I won't be here when I finish, will I? Who killed my sister? Was it you with your little dog? Well, that was my nickname when I was at Gallifreyan school, college, whatever you called it. Have you seen the first episode of the new season? Because I start to tell you my name during that, but Perry interrupts me. I rather enjoyed that. That was my idea. I said, this will really get them going. I describe a book that I'm thinking of writing, and I say, I can't remember the title of the book, by Doctor, and she interrupts me. I can see her going, oh! I said all sorts of silly names in rehearsal, things like Archibald Snood and things like that. What do you want to do? I'm sorry. You may shake my hand, of course you may, if you really want to. There you are. Hello, young man.
I wanted to know, why did you come in your costume?
Why did I come in my costume? Don't know, really. It is extremely heavy. I mean, if you look at my costume and think that it's designed to keep me warm when we're filming in the cold, something which the poor companions have never had the benefit of. The disadvantage, of course, it's very hot when you're not filming in the cold. But it's extremely bulky, and I'm over here for 10 days, and if I put the costume in my luggage, that's half my suitcase filled. And it isn't as comfortable. I mean, I'm much more comfortable talking to you like this than I am walking around in costume. And I only wear the costume when I'm the Doctor, really. I feel that somehow now I'm talking to you as Colin Baker, whereas if I'm in the costume, I'm not.
Another question I wanted to ask, when you play Doctor Who, do you make some of the lines up?
Yes, to a certain extent. I mean, I never actually make them up on the recording, because they frown on that and make you go back and do it again. I've tried once or twice, because there have been various little ideas I've had which I thought would not go down too well if I suggested them, and sometimes they don't notice, you know. Because when they're up in the control room, they're looking at a lot of things, and sometimes they can miss the odd little bit. And even though we were told to bring a little more humour to the programme in the last series, I found that whenever I did something which I thought was really hilarious, everyone said, no. I mean, I thought the bit in Revelation of the Daleks when the bit I got away with was offering to shake Davros's hand. I don't know if you remember that bit. We didn't rehearse that bit. I just did it on the recording and nobody noticed. The bit I didn't get away with is when he got shot in the hand, or the hand got exploded. I stuck one of the fingers up my nose afterwards. And someone thought that was bad taste. I don't, do you? I thought it was quite funny. Yes, a few of the lines they let me put in. I mean, most of those quotes and things came from me. And anything which you think is really witty and amusing was probably mine. Not very much, eh? Right. Yeah. No, 73 blind Trappist monks designed the costume. They were asked to pick up a piece of cloth each and hand them to someone with a needle. A lady called Pat Godfrey, who was the costume designer, was given the brief of designing a costume which was totally bad taste. And she came up with several designs which were lots of different colours but really very tasteful. And in the end we kept saying, no, it's not tasteless enough. And she came back with that one. And we said, well, that's near enough, I suppose. But even that, it grew on me. I don't know about you, but it grew on me. I got to quite like it. But then I was on the inside looking out. It's like they always say, if you live in a town, always live in the ugliest house in the town, because you're the one who doesn't have to look at it. You may. You're a left-handed person, are you? Oh, that's all right. A sinister. Hello.
I'm afraid my question was answered. Mr. Doctor is utterly your favor.
Well, so I'll give you a different answer then. Peter Davison, how's that? Oh, you like him, do you? Right. He's cute. Yes, he is. He's cute. Cute. sweet. The Master comes in the last 2 episodes of Trial of a Time Lord, episodes 13 and 14.
Also, what were you doing at the time when you were asked to play the Doctor?
At the time I was asked to play the Doctor, I was taking a part in a series called Swallows and Amazons Forever on BBC television, which is why those early photographs of me at the press reception, I had very short hair and looked incredibly stupid, because it was a 1930s, 40s piece that I was doing, so I had quite short hair. In fact, it's all coming off in a couple of weeks' time for the play I'm doing. I won't feel the same without my curls. So yes, that's what I was doing. You're very welcome. Yes. Is it the meddling monk I'm talking to? No. Oh, you dress like that normally, I see. Hello, Peter.
Anyway, in like the second episode of the 26th season, you were being interrogated by the Lord Radford and his 2 henchmen, right?
Yes.
And they were poking in front of you, and they got this little bag of white. We couldn't tell what it was. Were those jelly babies or what?
No, they weren't jelly babies. One of the few things that I was allowed to do during that season was to provide the contents of that pocket myself. And there was a yo-yo in there, wasn't there? You'd just taken one out. I had one of those in my pocket. And I had a little mask with a nose, moustache and glasses on it. I had all sorts of bits and pieces. And the sweets were peppermints. Soft, chewy peppermints. Now, I don't like jelly babies, you see. To me, the idea is wonderful, but it's like eating slightly flavoured India rubber. And I would feel it dishonest to promote something which I personally would refuse to eat myself. And sometimes it's very sweet. Kids come up to me and say, "Would you like a jelly baby?" And I have to explain to them, kindly, that I don't actually like them. Sorry.
What's your favorite habit?
My favourite habit? I quite like the habit the BBC had of paying me every Friday. That was do you mean a habit of mine or other people's? Oh, eating is one of my favourite habits. Yes, I like that. Yes, eating. My favourite food? Last time I said I quite like chocolate chip cookies, I put on 17 stone in about a month because very kind people kept giving me chocolate chip cookies. My favourite food is probably good old-fashioned English sausages and mashed potatoes. Yes! Bangers and mash. Diet Coke, right, good idea. Yes.
The question is, if you were asked to come back for the 7 Doctors State for the 25th anniversary, would you accept?
That's a very difficult question. Would I come back for a 7 Doctor special? Well, I don't think they do a 7 Doctor special because William Hartnell is no longer with us. Neither is Richard Herndl, who took over the part. And I think to have a 3rd actor to play the 1st Doctor would be unthinkable. I think we have to leave the 1st Doctor alone now. That's my personal opinion. I also have my doubts as to whether Tom would ever want to come back into the programme. And I have never understood that decision until now. I thought it was rather strange of Tom not to want to do it again, but I find myself in the same position. When you care about a thing that much, to come back and play with it for a while is somehow not quite right. And the way I feel at the moment, I wouldn't want to do it, to be honest. But I might think differently in a couple of years, I don't know. But I would find it quite difficult to do. If you'd asked me that question a year ago, I'd have said yes, I'd love to. But somehow if I'd served my normal time and left normally, it might have been different. And Tom played it for 7 years. I mean, I can understand why after playing a part for 7 years and getting that intensely involved with it, somehow it wasn't quite right to come back and share the experience with 4 or 5 others. I know it's disappointing for the fans, but I can understand it. That's made you all quiet, hasn't it? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Hello.
I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, do you think that in your opinion, that the problems the show has incurred has been due to the incompetence of the head of the BBC directors in trying to recapture some of the popularity established by the Tom Baker and Company? And 2, I understand that you do funny and, in the words of John Mason Turner, wickedly accurate impersonations, and I wonder if you would do one for us this afternoon.
I think John Nathan Turner's confusing me with somebody else. I don't know what he means. There's a difference between what one does when fortified by liquid refreshment late at night at parties when we all think we're all brilliant and witty and entertaining, and somebody says something which, if they said it at 10 o'clock in the morning, you would not raise one smile at, and everyone falls to the ground with merriment. I think he's probably referring to something I may have said or done on one of those occasions. So something doesn't spring to mind at the moment. The first half of your question about recapturing the excitement of Tom Baker's era, I don't think anybody at the BBC who's there now has the remotest idea of who Tom Baker was with relation to Doctor Who. The problem is that nobody in the upper echelons of the BBC knows or cares much about Doctor Who. It's one of their many programmes. If you told them that it was played in the past by William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee and Tom Baker, they go, oh, what, no, did they really? Oh, what a surprise. They wouldn't know. There's no one trying, there's no through line on it. There's no one trying to do anything. The mere fact that John Nathan Turner's been producing the programme for 7 years gives it some continuity. But when he goes, then I think you'll find it probably changed completely again. But I don't think there's any desire to recapture the past. That might be something we might feel. I don't think there's anything that they're concerned about.
Well, may I say that Past Past is Britain album in Canada, that I find it absolutely fantastic. I wonder if there's a fellow who has shaking hands up.
One British hand to another. Where are you from?
Cheshire originally.
Cheshire? I know.
The English mother and the Welsh father.
Have you really?
Yes.
How nice. Yakidar, which is Welsh for hello. Oh, very good.
Hello.
Hi there.
Okay. I get a subtle impression from these people from the BBC or wherever it's coming from that they are actually trying to kill Doctor Who and they're doing everything possible to do it.
Well, that is a construction one could put on it. I've heard many people say that. To be honest, I don't think it is a positive intention, because if they wanted to kill it, they'd just stop it. Because they don't have any, they don't care about a couple of thousand people, or 10,000 people, because they're making programs for millions. And however vociferous and loving and caring you are for the programme, you are a tiny part of the total audience for BBC programmes. If Michael Grade really wanted to kill it, he would just say, that's an end to it. However, I think subliminally somewhere, that desire may well be present. I remember seeing him interviewed on the other channel. He was controller of programmes for London Weekend Television until about 5 years ago. And he used to have to find programmes to schedule against Doctor Who. So he had a kind of distaste for the programme early on. And I saw him interviewed, and he was asked what he thought of the current BBC output. And I remember very clearly what he said was that he thought the BBC was getting kind of tied up in its own history. It was becoming an anachronism. For example, he said, it's still showing outdated programmes like Doctor Who. Now, he said that about 8 years ago. So if he thought that then, he's hardly likely to have changed his mind, and now he's responsible for it. I shouldn't think he has too much fondness for it. However, there is a strong lobby from BBC Enterprises which finds Doctor Who a wonderful key to open up markets in America. If they go to a TV station and say, hey, we've got you another 26 episodes of Doctor Who, will you also buy 6 episodes of this wonderful dramatic series we're making? They stand more chance of seeing it if they have Doctor Who with them to open up the market. And people who are selling the program put a lot of pressure on, as far as they can, to get more of Doctor Who. I mean, I've been asked many times by PBS station managers over here, when you go back, can you talk to your bosses and tell them we need more Doctor Who? And they get very surprised when I laugh. Because I said, A, I never meet those bosses from one year's end to another, and if I went as an actor and said, could you make more of my program, because people in America would like it, they go, would you mind going away, please? I'm busy. I'm afraid that the criteria of good business don't seem to apply over there.
The thing is, I've been a conservator writer for a very long time, and until you, I feel you're about the only one so far that's really been able to give you a run for his money.
No, thank you.
By the way, I heard that you are interested in sea cats. How many do you own and what kind?
Cats, I've got 4 cats. Of the live variety. I had 5 until quite recently. One of mine recently died. I've got a black Persian who is 16 years old and blind as a bat and obsessed by me. I mean, if I'm within 20 yards of him, he will find me and climb up me. And he climbs up me as if I was a piece of wood. And I've got little holes all over my legs. And because he's elderly and blind, he gets away with it. 2 local farm cats. One is a kind of grey and white Persian type. One's a tabby. And another black and white one who was chucked out of a car on the motorway and had a broken leg and fractured pelvis. And I've got 2 whippets who are dogs, who are similar rejects. But I must have about 500 china cats, wooden cats, you know, pictures of cats. It's my kind of hobby, collecting cat things. Cataphernalia, I call it.
British FPCA.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Great pleasure. Oh, this hand is so lucky. I mean mine. Second?
Something I really have enjoyed on your episode is you bring a heart into it, like you really enjoy the part, and you really, it's just beaming, you know, like you're enjoying it, and it's on another acting show.
That's how I felt. I'm glad it came over. Thank you. Yeah. What a very good idea. I suppose he's too selfish to have a companion. I love the idea of him and the Rani going around together, but they didn't get on too well last time they met. She did most extraordinary things to him. I didn't see that scene being recorded, the one that they had between them, where they had should we call it a fight. And when I saw it on the television, I was amazed. Very good. I don't know. Anthony Ainley sends his love to you all, by the way. He wrote me a very sweet letter a few weeks ago, after he'd heard the news about my no longer playing the Doctor, and we'd always had this dream of doing a really good story together. I mean, basically just the Doctor and the Master in some kind of large conflict together, a battle of wills and intelligence, and one where the Doctor didn't win quite so easily. I sometimes feel that the Doctor wins against the Master too easily, which diminishes the Master. I think the Master should be a really strong, credible enemy. And he needs a companion. You'd like to be that companion, wouldn't you? I'll tell him that, and he'll be over here quite soon, I promise you. Nice to talk to you. Hello. I'm very well. And not so much science fiction programs. I read a lot of science fiction. I enjoy the books. I mean, when Battlestar Galactica was on, I kind of watched it, mainly because of Muffet the Daggett. And I like the Star Wars movies, and I like all that sort of thing. But I suppose the area of science fiction I like most is literature, because I really believe that you cannot beat human imagination, and the combination of the imagination of the writer and your own when you read it is only equalled by sound radio, actually. I love plays on the radio, because, I mean, the people are really good looking and the sets are great. And it's the same with a book. I mean, as soon as I get on a plane, and if I don't get on with a science fiction book to read on the way over here, I feel quite depressed. I'm reading one called Magician at the moment, which I bought on the way, which is good fun. I'm enjoying it.
The first time I saw you was at Maxwell in that previous in the Davidson episode.
Right.
I really like that character. I'd love to see him back soon.
Maxwell? Yeah. Hey, that's a good idea. If I can't come back as one character, I'll come back as the other. Maybe we can get Babe the Berserker into Doctor Who. That would be the end of the Doctor. They call me Babe. Hi.
Hi. I was wondering if you had ever seen the episode Doctor Who was the City of the Galaxy. What episode? It was a movie with Peter Cushing. I was wondering if that came before or after the series.
65, 66 was it? I honestly don't know the relative dates involved, but they were conceived quite separately from the television series. I mean, the Doctor was a totally different character. He was a kind of Earth scientist, and I don't regard those films as being kind of part of the classic Doctor Who stream. I mean, they're kind of interesting sidelights, but they're not really Doctor Who. I don't think so, anyway.
And did you ever personally get away with saying reverse the polarity of the neutron flow?
I wanted to. I think there was a scene at the beginning of this. I haven't actually watched a lot of what I've done for some time, so it kind of gets confused. I think there was a scene where I was unconscious at one point, where I started to say it, but they may have cut that out. I've tried to put it in once or twice, but it wasn't viewed with any great popularity by JNT. Say it now. Reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. Of course, you know why John said that, don't you? He must have told you. Because he couldn't remember all the lines he was supposed to say. All the things about, well, I can't remember any examples now, but some of the long technical dialogue you get. And he'd be in the studio and he'd forget to say the flange dipole operative square root syndrome. And he'd just say, oh, but reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. Instead, in his inimitable way. Because there are bigger guys busting littler guys. That's why. Always happens. I mean, how's Colonel North going to get busted for sending arms to Iran? Because there's a guy above him who's bigger and got a bigger hammer. That's why.
Well, another thing, this is kind of a rhetorical question, not necessarily one that I expect you to be able to answer, but something I figured on my own. I know for a fact now that Robert Rochelle, Ed Beckley, and Tom Who are all Dalek methods here to undermine Earth society and counter invasion. Bring that up and just finally be honest with it, and when are they going to overdo their usefulness? I mean, come on.
Oh, I wonder if you're just as balmy as I am. Yeah, well, what can I say? I could add a few more names to that list, maybe. Yeah. Tom Doohan. Is that who you said? Ed Begley and who else?
Tom Who. Well, there's these three guys. See, all right, Dr. Who was supposed to come on at midnight.
Yeah.
Past several months, your show is, for some reason, it's been on at 12:30. It's like last night, 1:30. Certain characters want to tell us how to make $1 million in the stock market.
Well, all I can say is that you must march You must march, get together and march upon the station and take it over. People's power, we can do it. And we can record the program there. What? Hello? Do you want to use mine? There you are. Look, you use this one.
When did K9 start being in the shows?
When did K9 stop being in the shows? I honestly don't know. It was long before my time, about 7 or 8 years ago. I suppose it was during Tom Baker's time, wasn't it?
Warriors Gate.
Which one?
Warriors Gate.
Was it?
Yes.
Warriors Gate. I've never heard of that one.
One of the final Tom Baker. He left the throne.
Right. Yes, I'm afraid he's gone. I think Tom Baker has said many times that he found K9 quite difficult to work with because it wasn't as well made as most of the K9s the fans make. And it kept grinding to a halt and breaking and exploding and falling into pieces. And it wasted so much time in the studios that they decided maybe it was time to call it a day. Do you miss K9? Yes, you do a bit, don't you? Maybe we should have a cat instead. Feline. Bye-bye.
And the Twin Dilemma, they really seem to mess you up a lot. I don't know if you really like that very much.
Am I like that? What do you mean, am I like that? It was decided that because the transformation into Peter had been one where he was kind of weak and the whole process of regeneration had exhausted him, poor soul. He wasn't very strong, was he?
No zero captain.
They ought to have a different sort of regeneration for me, and then it was decided by the writers and the producer and the directors that I should have a kind of manic intensity, and deliberately they wanted to keep it going for the whole 4 episodes, really, so that the viewers would be going, I don't like this person. I think he's horrible, and he's very brave to do that. I was a bit worried. I said, can we just do it for half an episode and then I can be nice? And they said, no, it's more dramatically interesting to really get people worried. So when you do start to mellow, it's more interesting. And I suppose they've got a good point. If you think of some of the great characters in fiction, if you think of, for instance, Pride and Prejudice, the way that for 3/4 of the book you think Darcy is a real pig, and it's only at the end you realise he has a noble soul. I think that's quite an interesting concept, and that's what they tried to do with the Sixth Doctor. The trouble is we never got round to making the episodes where I was nice. And I think it's quite interesting the Doctor should have an edge to him, and not be... I did want to make him not totally predictable and not always accessible on a kind of human terms, that sometimes he might do things that would make you go, oh, I'm not sure I care for that, but know that deep down in the middle of him there is an iron core of caring, really. That's what it's all about.
Do you have any idea, like, if when they come to the end of the 12th Doctor, do you think that he could do something real grand to get 2 more generations for the actors to the Masters?
Well, yes. I mean, there are lots of things they could do. I think the most sensible thing they could do is go back to the 6th. Because at the rate Gray's going through them, they'll be at the 12th Doctor about 3 years' time. And then I can have a nice uninterrupted 15 years of playing the part. I could. I can't reach from here. I have to go over there. There you are, my friend. Just shake yours now. Save me coming back. Let's get in the light. That's better. Hey, that's what I look like.
Just 2 questions. Do you hope or do you pray that the royalty watch
Do I what? Oh, the royalty? Yeah. I don't know if they do. I know that one of the royals, Princess Alexandra, does, because she did something which was wonderfully embarrassing. They had an award ceremony for children's television. And all the producers and the heads of children's television were there, and they were announcing all the awards, and Princess Alexandra was there to give, she's kind of cousin of the Queen, to give the awards out, and she made a little speech at the beginning, and she said that she had very much admired the output of children's television. Indeed, she and her family adored watching Doctor Who, which was great embarrassment to children's, because it's not made by children's television. It's made by series and serials, which is kind of adult television. And they all went, and the poor lady didn't know. So at least some of the royalty do watch it, yes.
And the second question is, are you going to continue watching Doctor Who?
Do you know, I honestly don't know. That is a decision I shall make a couple of minutes before it's due to come on next time. I don't know. I feel very strange about it at the moment. It'll be an odd feeling. Part of me is very curious, another part of me is kind of aloof. And neither of which I'm very proud of, but I'm only a human being. Okay. Good afternoon. Right.
Years and years ago, when Roger Delgado played the part with John Berkeley, the intent was to develop a story about the relationship between the two men.
Right.
That never happened because of Roger Delgado's death. Was there any intent of providing a background between the two men and why they're so averse? Because they were at one time presumably friends or...
Yes, I've always wanted to do a story like that as well, and both Anthony and I have asked John, when we thought there was a long future of Anthony and I having the opportunity to do a story together, to maybe do that. And John always resisted on the basis that the more you know about people in the programme, the less there is to know, and it's quite nice to keep the uncertainty going for as long as you reasonably can. I'm sure eventually during the programme's history that it'll come out, but... Well, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think that the relationship does need some kind of boost at the moment, because the story I had with the Rani, which included the Master, was very much the Rani's story, and I think it needs a good, strong story for the Master. I agree with you.
Concerning that story, there's something that's sort of missing there. A wasn't meant to do it. B, where's the TARDIS? He leaves with the Rani. He has obviously left his TARDIS somewhere at that time.
Yes. Yes. Indeed. But they're all different times, aren't they? You don't know whether just because we see it sequentially in our terms, it doesn't have to be sequential in their terms. So they could still be spinning in space in our terms, but then in his past he came in our future. See what I mean?
Yes.
You may! I'm making the walk quite long for myself now, aren't I? There you are. Hello, 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 hello. Right. Yes. For the Star Trek novels? Do you know, I've got them, but I haven't actually read them yet. Somehow, because I know the story of those... is that Ursula? No, it's not. Who wrote the Entropy Effect? Vonda McIntyre, who wrote the Dream Snake. Yes. She's a very good writer, Vonda McIntyre. Yes, I shall read that one then. I have it on my shelf at home. I shall read it.
One of the three survivors of the battleship during World War II.
No. He might have done. There was an actor on the hood, and I know him. His name is Esmond Knight, but I don't think John was. I could be corrected if I'm wrong, but I'm sure it's something I'd have known before if that was the case. So I don't think it is the case. Sylvester McCoy. It's like Sylvester without the R on the end, and McCoy, and he's exactly the same age as I am. He's 43. Right. and he's very short. And he's a Scottish person. Well, that's a calculated risk. There have to be some of you out there.
First off, allow me to say that whether Michael Gray likes it or not, you are the doctor.
Thank you.
Welcome. I'm afraid that one of my questions was answered already, but I thought of another one.
I bet you did.
Thank you. The Daleks. John Pertwee said he rather did not like the Daleks. How do you feel about them?
They're not very fond of him either. I think they're great. I think they're wonderful. They're ludicrous. I mean, when you actually work with the Daleks, and you're sitting in rehearsal, right, in a rehearsal room, with this man who sits on something like this, with a skirt round it, a bit like the bottom half of Davros, you know what I mean, that thing. And they don't have the top bit on because it's too hot. And there's someone sitting there with their legs on the ground, walking around like that, steering this thing, holding an arm out in front of him, so he knows when we do it where to put the plunger at the front. And there's somebody else sitting over there on a chair with a microphone reading the lines, and you're talking to this thing, the voice is coming from over there. You think, how old am I? What am I doing here? But suddenly, when you get onto the studio floor and the whole thing is there, I get a tingle down my spine. And it defies all logic. The thing looks ludicrous. It's a pepper pot with a plunger on the front of it. My wife, Marion, who is in every other respect a very normal and sensible person, refused to come to the studio when the Daleks were there because she was frightened of them. And an enormous amount of people of my generation and since find the Dalek one of the most frightening things on television. And for no reason at all. They can't even go up a flight of steps. All they do is run upstairs and go out the window. Mind you, they do have a disconcerting habit of blasting away the downstairs. So you go bonk, and then you go, oh.
Earlier asked you if you would do an impersonation, and you said that you couldn't. In the Twin Dilemma, you did a rather good impersonation of Peter Davison. It was a line that went something like, well, the purpose of reconnaissance is to gather information out to line down.
Thank you. That was better than mine. I have once or twice attempted to impersonate the odd one of my predecessors. I think John Pertwee's the one I enjoy doing most, but I won't do it now because it's not fair. I did it earlier with reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. You're very welcome.
First off, what would it like to work with the Ronnie?
You didn't get far enough in that thing. And when you were watching The Brothers earlier, did you notice a woman dressed in red walking across the screen? Because that was Kate O'Mara. Because she was my principal adversary in The Brothers. She was she owned an aircraft company, and I was the chairman of this trucking company. And the two companies merged, and she was on the board, and she was my enemy. And she was the good guy, and I was the bad guy. It was quite interesting. And we worked together for 2 or 3 years, and Kate's a great mate of mine. I've known her for a long time. And she's back in England now, of course, because she's left Dynasty. And I gather the first story of the new Doctor is going to be a Rani story. So she's... I'll let you clap. You don't. You can clap. Oh, thank you. How kind. Well, I'm not sure about that. She's great, Kate. I think the definition of any doctor is that you should be completely insane. I think it's a prerequisite insanity, don't you? You're very kind, thank you. You must be insane as well. Wonderful, I'm glad to hear it. Pleasure.
Hello there.
Hello.
Yeah, I unfortunately have seen it this evening, and I was just wondering, do you have anything to the idea of using puns?
Puns? Oh, I love puns, don't you? Some people find them deeply offensive, but I rather enjoy it. What? There's a voice from behind here. What are you saying? What? They tell me to shut up and go away. Yes, clear off. Leave me alone. I'm enjoying myself. Do you want me to go away? No! Oh, thank you.
Shake hands with
I'll have a couple more questions. I must go because they've got all sorts of films and things they want to show you.
Sorry, Colin, couldn't quite make the parade.
I just wish it was the first time I'd heard that one. Sir. Are there many people inside the Daleks? Yes, inside each one there's a human being sitting on a little plank with his feet on the ground, and there's casters around the bottom. I hate to destroy your illusions, but that is the case. Yes. Not the real ones, I'm talking about the pretend ones we have at the BBC. The real ones have got these little green things inside them. You go, bleh, bleh, bleh. Oh, there's one. Oh, no, it's all right. Yes, you may. I know Nicholas Courtney and I have always asked John if we could do a story together, and he's always said if a script came along that was good enough, he'd love for the Brigadier to meet the Sixth Doctor. Now, alas, it looks as if it's no longer to be possible. It's a great shame. I'd like to do a story with Nick. I can always come back, you're quite right. There is no precedent for it, but, well... We could march together! I will lead you! And then when we get there, I'll nip round the back and you can go in. You're very welcome. I think we'll have to take two more questions, and I'm getting shouted at from behind these curtains. And they say the rudest things to me, you wouldn't believe it. Because they think you can't hear. Next time I'm going to put the microphone up against the curtain. That is true, it was. Yes. When I played Phyllis in Iolanthe, I was 11. And when I played Rose Maybud in Ruddigore, I was 12. And I can still remember some of it. I think it's Ruddigore I remember the clearest. For here it says in plainest print, it's most unladylike to hint. You may not hint, you must not hint. It says you mustn't hint in print. Do you like Dublin and Sullivan too? What? You want a kiss? You're all to close your eyes. You're much too young. I'm very well, thank you, my darling. Are you from Liverpool as well? Are you with the other one from Liverpool? Where's the girl from Liverpool I was talking to earlier? She's from Liverpool too. Now, I want you to come and meet each other. Come on. William Hartnell, did you really? In that case, I'm honoured to shake your hand. It's shaking the same hand as the governor. Because we all regard William Hartnell as the governor. He was, wasn't he? He was a bad-tempered old devil, though, wasn't he? Yes, he